John had always remembered her, those big curious eyes that blinked too much when she laughed. Anne, their neighbor's last daughter, she used to call him Uncle Johnny, even though they were only 5 years apart. He was 19 then, chasing his American visa, and she was just 14, barefoot, and always playing 10-10 in front of the compound. He left with a luggage full of dreams, thinking he'd never come back. But 10 years later, John returned to Nigeria, not as the wide-eyed boy who once queued at embassies, but as a man, an engineer, a man with savings, documents and options. His father, a respected elder in the village, wanted to throw a welcome party. "We have many suitable girls now, John. Pastor Uche's daughter just returned from the UK. You will like her." John nodded absently, but his mind drifted to her, to Anne. He hadn't asked about her, not yet, but on his second day back, while taking a slow walk through the old compound, he saw a little girl of about 5, sweeping the dusty front yard of what used to be the Okafor's house, and then he saw her, Anne, no longer the skinny girl with beads in her hair, but a slim young woman, tired, barefoot, and yet regal in her suffering. She was bent over a basin of laundry, her hands rough from scrubbing, her eyes widening when she saw him. "Uncle Johnny," she whispered. He smiled, a knot forming in his throat. "It's just John now." Tears filled her eyes before she could hide them. She quickly turned, ashamed of her appearance. "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were back." He stepped closer. "Where are your parents?" She looked at the ground. "Buried, Mama last year, Papa 3 years before that. And this little girl, Joy, my baby sister. Mama gave birth before passing. I've been raising her." That night, John couldn't sleep. Anne's story was a symphony of heartbreak. No relative, no help. She had dropped out of secondary school to work as a cleaner in a school nearby. Every penny she earned went into feeding Joy and paying rent. The next morning, John went back, not with pity, but with purpose. He started by enrolling Joy in a good school. Then he helped Anne start a small baking business. He bought her an oven and promised to fund her return to school if she wished. And she did. But love, no, that came later. Love came in the way she quietly served him tea, without asking. In how Joy clung to his legs whenever he visited. In the way Anne, even in worn-out slippers, carried herself like a queen, afraid to ask for help, but too brave to walk away from hardship. John's parents were not fools. They noticed. "You spend too much time with that girl," his father warned. "You're back now. Build your future with someone who matches your level." "She's just a neighbor's child," his mother echoed. "She's not even from a good family." John didn't argue. He simply booked a court appointment in Enugu. Anne cried when he proposed, not because she didn't love him, but because she was sure the world would say no. "But your parents, don't worry," he said, slipping a plain silver ring on her finger. "Let's do it for love, for God and for Joy." The court wedding was small, quiet. No one from his family attended, just a few friends and one of John's cousins who whispered, "You're crazy, but I respect you." Within 2 months, John had processed her paper. He returned to the US with Anne and Joy. The first year was hard. Anne struggled to adjust. Joy missed Nigeria, but John never wavered. He took 2 jobs, took extra shifts. He kissed his wife on the forehead every morning before sunrise and packed lunch for her when she started school in the US. And then, doors opened. John's stagnant business suddenly found a major client in Texas. A random lottery grant he applied for years ago was approved. Anne's pastries began to trend on Instagram after a food blogger shared one of her pies. Joy was awarded a scholarship for gifted children in the arts. Even John's immigration process, which had dragged for years, was suddenly approved. He was offered full citizenship. And one night, sitting on their small couch in their modern housing apartment, Anne looked at him and asked, "Why do you think everything changed?" He looked at her, then at the sleeping form of little Joy, wrapped in a blanket. "Because I married a blessing," he said softly. "Not just you, but your heart, your loyalty, your strength. Even when life broke you, you didn't break." When John's parents finally visited 2 years later, they were stunned. Anne greeted them in fluent English, her posture proud, her voice calm. Joy recited a poem for them, her American accent thick, but her Igbo name proudly declared Chijindu. His father took him aside and said, maybe you saw what we could not. And John replied, "No, I just followed what God showed me." Now, whenever Anne tells the story, she ends it like this: "Sometimes, the love that blesses you the most isn't the loud kind. It's the one that shows up in silence, lifts you from the dust, marries you in secret, and takes you where even your dreams didn't dare go." And in that truth, Anne, John and Joy built a new legacy, a family not formed by approval, but by grace. The moral lesson for this story is that sometimes the greatest blessing comes from choosing heart over pride, sacrifice over applause, and obedience to God over people's opinion. This is the end of this story. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and share with your friends. Subscribe and hit the bell for updates. Let us know where you are watching us from in the comments.